I'll take a further call to make some further points.
David Clark.
Chair, thank you. I rise to speak to this part in particular because I have an SOP in my name around the issue of advertising. The issue of advertising is one of the top things that can make a difference in this area. As I said in one of my previous contributions in this debate, price and marketing are the two big levers that can be pulled in the alcohol sphere to effect behavioural change. That's the finding of the Law Commission's report to which 3,000 New Zealanders submitted. And those New Zealanders who submitted their concerns will be very disappointed to learn that the national government is not allowing its own members to exercise their conscience on this issue. It is a terrible disappointment, I think, and a sadness in this Parliament that MPs are not treating this issue as a conscience issue in the traditional fashion, because here we do have the opportunity, an opportunity which doesn't present itself very often, to make a real change in the culture that we have in New Zealand. Before I go directly onto advertising, I just want to make a brief comparison with the culture in Germany, where I had the good fortune to live as an exchange student many years ago and latterly during some postgraduate study. In Germany, the drinking age is a split age, but of a different kind to that which we've debated in this Parliament. Beer and wine is able to be purchased at age 16 and spirits at age 18. And what happens in practice is that in Germany, the young people get access to those drinks roughly 2 years before the official age that is designated by their parliament. They have a much more permissive culture around alcohol, and indeed I would argue a healthier culture around alcohol, because it is something that is consumed with family under supervision and in a way that indicates that those who do experiment with it are younger and therefore, curiously, more immature, whereas in New Zealand our age of entitlement is often tied up with alcohol in respect. The age of entitlement is tied up with adulthood in respect of alcohol. And that produces a slightly different cultural norm and expectation. People experiment with alcohol when they reach adulthood, and therefore it is an adult drink, as opposed to my observation in Germany, where it's considered a drink that is more associated with juvenile behaviour. So the member opposite makes the point. He's right. So there are different cultures, and we have the opportunity to change our culture for the better. The debate focused largely on age up until now is, in my view, a shame, because that is not where the real opportunities lie. I was told by one researcher that the age debate in alcohol was like emptying a bucket with a teaspoon. It does make a difference, but it takes a very long time, and the impact is less noticeable than pulling on the levers like advertising and price. So my SOP, which is in respect of advertising, aims to reduce the amount of advertising available on New Zealand television to promote liquor products, and that is intended to stop the growth of the alcohol market in New Zealand. I'm sure that those who already drink will notice limited change in their own behaviour, but those who are new to alcohol will not find the array of colourful advertising that they might otherwise find on television and also on radio. And for the benefit of those at home who don't have access to these SOPs who might be watching this, I will read the first clause here, which says that no person or entity may broadcast or arrange for any other person or entity to broadcast any alcohol product advertisement on television or radio in New Zealand. And the SOP is modelled on what is done in the tobacco field, where this has become law in a similar way, and there are unintended consequences ruled out. And likewise in the SOP, in the way in which it is modelled, it makes sure that overseas broadcasts, for example, that are taken through a paid network that have advertising as part of the package are allowed to proceed, where it's difficult to weed out that advertising. So it's not intended to make an overly burdensome compliance on local content. it's intended to make sure that no additional advertising is being created. Mr. Chair.
David Clark.
To make sure that no additional advertising is being created. And likewise, the unintended consequence is alluded to in the final clause of the supplementary order paper, which says that exhibitions in museums or art gallery or works or artefacts that contain an aspect of alcohol advertising are permitted. So the SOP is designed to make sure that we don't have any silly situations where the law might be called into question or ridiculed. It is designed to make sure that we are not creating advertising that is glorifying alcohol in the New Zealand context and making it out to be a particularly healthy lifestyle choice. Now, the majority of New Zealanders, we know, will drink alcohol in a fair way for most of their lives. So, what, however, we also know is that the evidence suggests that there are ways in which we can curb alcohol-related harm. There's a lot of science around these things, and the experts in the field are very clear about what we can change and what we should change. The government's legislation, as it's proposed it, doesn't really pull the levers that it can pull in respect of price and marketing. So my SOP aims to get at the marketing issue. I'll also be supporting other similar amendments being put forward by Te Ururoa Flavel, by Ian Lees-Galloway, and I think those are the other two in a similar vein, because they get to the heart of a similar issue and are designed to restrict advertising that will lead to harmful consequences for our people. Mr. Chair, as I conclude, I want to say that it is indeed a disappointment that this legislation isn't tackling these issues directly head-on. It's left to SOPs to be debated, and it's a shame that the National Party, we're told, are going to be whipped into exercising their consciences in a particular way, which makes it hard to imagine how those indeed are working consciences, because this whipping of the vote means that these issues, which are important to New Zealand society, are not getting the opportunity to be properly debated. We're debating them as energetically as we can on this side of the House, but there is not much debate coming from the other side, where those members opposite are succumbing to the pressure put on them to toe the line, to not rock the boat, to make sure that they don't upset the apple cart or have an opinion of their own. And I really think that is a terrible shame, because these are issues. Mr. Woodhouse is calling out, and I know that he will know in Dunedin that this is a very real issue, which the senior members of our community are concerned about, which the council is concerned about, and he's nodding. He knows this to be true, and also the university are concerned about. And I know he too is concerned about this issue, but I think it's a real shame that he is not free to exercise his own vote and his own conscience on this issue, because it is an issue that affects our community, and we know from the evidence that this has harms to our community when we don't have effective legislation, and that we do have a problem in New Zealand that needs to be addressed. So, Mr. Chair, I want to conclude with that remark to say that it is a shame that the government is passing up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make good on the recommendations the Law Commission put forward from the 300 submissions they received, many from experts in the field, and suggest that the government is tinkering with the law rather than making the substantive changes that are really needed. Thank you.
Te Ururoa Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. Kia ora tātou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity.